Hi, welcome to my channel. Firstly, I'd like to thank all of my new subscribers and viewers. I've had a lot of traction on my videos recently, probably because I was using Solo Shot 3 for clickbait in my titles, but it seems like you like the content. So I'm going to give you a little bit of history into me and my surfing ability. We're also going to cover some of the boards behind me in my Quiver, as well as a few boards that are no longer with me, and give you an idea about my surfing history over the last couple years of me moving to the Outer Banks to become what I call the 40-year-old Grom. So to give you an idea of my history, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and then spent all of my adult life from college until the age of 40 in Austin, Texas. Now where does one surf there? Nowhere. However, my parents, or actually my grandparents, built a beach house in the Outer Banks back in, I want to say 48 or 49. And I had the privilege of living over here in the summers from age 0 up until about age 12. So I do have a very intimate knowledge of the ocean. Rip tides, waves, all of that I'm very comfortable with. However, I didn't really start surfing until I was about 11, and then by the time my parents divorced and mom had to go to work and our summers no longer were spent at the beach, I only had about a season or two with a shortboard under my feet. From that point on, I saw a longboard maybe once every 2 years, surfing Gulf Coast waves or coming over here on vacation and catching some small summer vacation waves. And I really didn't have much surfing in me. Now, not to go too personal, but I quit drinking at age 38 and then kicked around Austin for a little while, somewhat awkwardly, kind of done with the town, before I decided to move back to this island. And one of the first things I did was pull out my old shortboard from age 12. This is a company called New Sun. They used to be around here, and I bought this board by cleaning up trash around my mom's beach house and washing everyone's windows. So I did ride a shortboard at one point in time in my life. Not very well and not for very long, but amazingly this thing is still around. And shockingly actually, while this board is probably almost 40 years old now, I'm not 35, it bears striking resemblance to the way people are making boards now with this sort of hybrid design with a lot of foam pushed up. It's pretty amazing what they were doing with boards back then that have only now come back in. But that's just a little memory. Those of you who know New Sun, give them a little love. Now when I moved over here, like I said, I got a longboard first, but once I sort of remastered the surfing side of things, the longboard really becomes a bit of a disadvantage when you're dealing with heavy beach break. Great for catching waves, but once you're into a steep wave, it's a whole lot of foam to be taken down the line. And my first shortboard that I got was this 7S Superfish. I still ride it. You've seen it in some of my videos. It is a really nice paddling board. Now it is a Chinese pop-out, and a lot of people don't like that, but as you can see, I like these 7S's. Super light. They're actually not very, they're not very bouncy. While they do sound like a ping pong ball, they don't have a lot of the chatter that I've heard about with a lot of epoxy boards, and I guess this fiberglass may mute some of that. I'm not sure, this webbing on here. But this was a great first shortboard. You can see it's very flat rocker, thick rails, very forgiving, and it really helped me transition to getting my paddle ability, being able to read waves, catch them later, and then get into the wave and have a lot less foam to deal with. However, there are some downsides in that there isn't a lot of rocker on this board. It is 39 liters, which I'm 170. That's a lot of foam. And it's great for the winter. When I got to wear rubber, that's why you've seen this recently. When I've got to wear my 10 to 15 pounds of rubber, the waves aren't that great. Having this flat rocker and extra paddle is a huge boon. Now the other 7S board I have is my grovel board. I used to ride a WRV Fatback at 5'6". This guy is 5'8", and it's a little bit more better at carving than the Fatback. The little 5'6" that I had was a square tail, very short fat board, and it felt very skatey, but I didn't like that. I'm trying to learn flow and turns, and that other board felt like you were just constantly pushing the tail out and sliding it around. These parallel rails really help this board carve well. It's still got fairly fat rails, so it works well in mushy waves, very forgiving, and it's quite wide, so it's a really great groveler. And you can see it's a fairly flat rocker, It's quite a very flat rocker. But it still has a little bit of lift in the tail, and I find that this really helps for getting this board turned around in tight arcs. Particularly this board rides very well as a quad. I have tried it as a thruster, but it's a little too tracky as a thruster. The quad really frees this up and makes it feel a lot more maneuverable. Now, one of my newest boards I have in my quiver is this fun board. And this is what I traded my longboard in for. My 9.2 longboard was great, like I said, for learning. But once I traded that in and was only with short boards, I found that there was a gap in my quiver when the waves were either small or actually really big. So when we get big second bar breaks and you need to be able to paddle and get out deep and move around a lot of water that's moving around, we call it victory at sea. So this board really fits the bill for that. I don't know the literage on it. I'm guessing it's probably in the upper 40s, lower 50s. Surprisingly, it doesn't paddle as well as I thought it would originally, but it's far more nimble in the waves, so I'm happy with that trade-off. But this is my latest board that I've had, and I've had a lot of fun with it, especially since I've gone back to the single fin. I tried it once with the 2 side bites, but it was way too tracky. It feels really good with a single fin, somewhere around the middle of the box. And these little wings in the back here, as well as the tail being very shaved down as far as thickness, gives this board a ton of maneuverability when you get your foot back on it. So this has been a great winter board, and this will also be probably my summer crap wave board as well. Careful. Now my 2 performance boards are over here, and I don't know if I'm going to get rid of this or not because I haven't been riding it a ton, but I'm bald, I'm in my 40s. Of course I bought a Slater board. When these came out, I jumped at the chance, and I got a 5.7. This is 30.8 liters. So this is my smallest literage board I have. It is also my narrowest board I have. I think this is 19 5/8, so just a little over 19.5 inches wide. Everything else you see here is at least 20 inches. So it's a little bit more maneuverable. It feels a little bit looser on the wave. It also has more rocker on the tail and the nose than any of my previous boards that we've seen for groveling. And this board is actually, I've found, really good on my backhand. I really like going right. I'm a goof, so I like going right on this board. And I like it set up as a thruster. I've tried it as a quad, but it's simply too fast as a quad. And my purpose in getting this board was barrels. Big waves, staying in the pocket, and getting barreled. So I ride it thruster, and I really only take this board out when it's at least waist high and the wave is steep. This board really does not grovel very well, but it does paddle very well. So I really like this board, but as I said, I haven't been riding it a ton recently because my other short board has been a little bit more of a focus. And this is my current performance board that I take out when I feel the waves are worth it. This is a WRV El Jefe. And WRV is a company that's actually located out of the Outer Banks. They also have a site in Hawaii. And the really cool thing about WRV is if you keep your boards in good shape, which I baby my boards, there's a stack of bags behind the camera you can't see. Every board has its own bag. It gets washed, it gets dried, it gets put away. When it's not in the water, do that. But because I keep good care of my boards, I've been able to trade in about 5 different boards with WRV as I was stepping down from 6.6, I had a 6.4, I had a 6.2. What did I have? I don't remember some of their models, I won't go into that, but WRV has been great, and as you can see, I have a couple of their boards here as well. This board is what I call an Outer Banks short board. It is the perfect board for out here. It's got a little bit of width and a little bit of volume pushed up to the front because we are in a big open ocean over here. The waves break randomly. You've got to be able to paddle around to get out, to move around in the lineup, and of course to catch the wave. This board runs a nice single into a double, and WRV has a few boards that share this characteristic that I seem to really like, which is there's a bump right here between the fins. If you feel the concave come down, there is a distinct raised spot here before it rolls off into a V. And this really creates a pivot point on this board that makes it very snappy and very good. I'm currently at a loss as to whether to take this board out or this board, and just because this one's a little bit newer, I've been taking it out more frequently. It's also a standard polyurethane, which, for those in the know, handles chop and heavy waves a little better than some of these fiberglass designs or epoxy designs. So that's my current quiver. I've got quite a few boards. Like I said, I've traded in with WRV. I've had a couple of Firewires in the past that were, I had a Spitfire that I got too soon that was just a little too much of a performance board for my level. It was the second board after this one. Wow, that board was a struggle for me. I might do better on it now, but I'm not currently in the market for any more boards. So I just want to say thank you all for all the subscriptions. We'll have more videos hopefully coming up in the next few days. We've got a nice swell in there. And while I will never ride this board again, I just want to point out the fact that this board, like I said earlier, is amazingly similar in design to what people are putting out now in these combo hybrid grovel boards. However, it's about 35 years old. So pretty shocking that New Sun had figured all this out beforehand. Please subscribe, like this, and look for more surf videos coming up soon. And if you're into the RC stuff, we'll have some more of that as well. Thank you.